Hope you had a fabulous weekend. Let's break in the interest rates. What you're going to see, and it's almost like Groundhog Day every week when we do this Monday updates. The rates really aren't that changing, and it's kind of leaning on the same type of news: inflation, on employment. This week, though, I know I may say this a lot, could prove to be a big rate with interest rates, and things are really heading to directions of lower interest rates. However, I just want to be mindful of the fact that when you look at long-term projections, rates aren't really forecasted to go much lower than they're at right now. The reason I keep bringing that up, this is such an opportunity to buy in December and January when houses have been sitting. It's huge. So make sure you watch my video where I talk about why and how people are getting their closing costs paid for. Rates super low, lower than where they're expected to go. Anyways, I'm starting to ramble. Let's go ahead and let's bring up today's interest rates. This looks very similar to last week. VA's 5.375, FHA's 5.375. Conventional and jumbo are both 5.75. Now notice these interest rates I'm showing you with up to 1 point. I say up to 1 point because some don't have a full point, some have a point. The idea today is to negotiate and get your closing costs paid for, get your rate bought down. And if you can do that successfully, which is not uncommon in this market, you may find yourself with an interest rate that you won't refinance, not in the near future anyways. So it's a huge opportunity. Let's go ahead and let's go take a look at what happened last week. The Feds definitely, I don't know, my computer's stuck here. Give me a second. There it is. The Feds did drop the interest rates last week, 0.25%. But the question is why didn't the interest rates follow? 30-year fixed rates, they kind of hung up there. In fact, we've talked about this two out of the last 3 times the Feds lowered interest rates. Interest rates actually rose, not went down and followed. So remember, what the bond market is looking at is not what the Fed does, because they've already built into the interest rates what those interest rate drops, but they're looking for what the Fed is saying about inflation, about job markets, and about stuff that's really going to matter to interest rates. Last week, let's take a look at as well. I don't know why my computer is stuck today. It's the Monday blues. But when you take a look at the jobs data, which remember is a big piece of whether or not the Feds are going to continue to lower interest rates, the job market is cooling. There's less job openings, worker confidence. Workers are not quitting their jobs to go look. They're not job hopping to get a higher paid job. Layoffs are rising, and the wage growth is increasing as it has in the past. Now, how this impacts 30-year fixed rates, think about it, right? If we have to pay employees more money to retain them, that cost is going to be passed on to you through the use of their goods and services in the form of inflation. So it's a really key piece on where we think inflation is going. All right, we're going to get this down. Inflation, though, however, with that being said, is quietly improving. Last week, the inflation data came in a little bit better than expected, which is going to make this week, which I'll get to in a second here, even more important. The market is going to be very focused on Thursday's consumer price index. Now, here's something that we're starting to see a lot of is, I'm going to bring this slide up here real quick. The housing snapshot, why headlines can mislead. The truth is that people are rate sensitive right now, and they are waiting for rates to go down. And that's one of the reasons why I keep repeating that. I don't necessarily know if they are. So if you're going to buy, this is the time, especially when there's not as much competition and you can negotiate for your closing costs getting paid for. Also, people are choosing to rent. They'd rather rent, have that flexibility because they're not sure where the short-term and long-term they're going to be. And the median age for home buyers, first-time home buyers, for the first time in, I don't know how long, is starting to rise. Now, inventory, housing supply remains tight in many desirable markets, and household formations, are remaining strong. So this all leads to, appreciation, because, we've talked about this, that we expect single-digit appreciation through the next year, which in our area, that can create great wealth for you. So let's take a look ahead on what to expect this week as it relates to the market. On Tuesday, we have jobs reports, which we've talked about how that job can influence 30-year fixed rates, consumer price index, and which is on Thursday, which is one of the biggest measurements of inflation. Then we have housing data coming in, I believe, on Friday. So this could prove to be a big week as we head into the holiday season. It's kind of crazy when we get to the next 2 weeks. You're going to see a little bit more volatility in the market, and the reason is, I love this reason, is because the seasoned traders, bond traders for 30-year fixed mortgages, are starting to take vacations, so they're leaving the market up to less seasoned, which is why there creates a little bit of volatility. So hey, we're not working together. We should. There's a QR code that leads you right to my calendar. It's called a Hopes and Dreams Conversation. There's no credit pulls, no applications, nothing like that. Just me and you going over your situation. Utilize my 20 years of experience that we've been doing this. We're going to take great care of you. My only goal for you is to pay less on your mortgage. And if you're not working with a great real estate agent, we work with the best. I'll connect you with one, and they're going to help you find your dream home. All right, with that being said, that is it. I hope you have a wonderful week. If you're looking for houses,